Careers webinar. Our guest today is Aine O'Connor. Aine is an amateur jockey, regularly riding against professionals, while also working full-time in Equuip as their recruitment officer. Aine has ridden 51 winners and has represented Ireland in the United States, Australia, Abu Dhabi and France. Notable racing wins include Drumcliff in the Clark Chase at Uttoxeter and a joint win at the Red Mills Ladies National Hunt in 2021. Welcome, Aine. Thanks so much for joining us for our From Foal to Race webinar.
Thanks, Amy. Thanks for having me.
My name is Amy and I am the Education Officer for Agri Aware. Now we'll just have a little look at our participants there and see if we can get started. Lovely, we can get started now, Aine. So do you want to tell us a little bit more about your story or your journey into racing?
Yeah, so I grew up around horses. There's been horses in my family, my uncle, grandfather, my sisters, we all rode. But I used to swim competitively until I was about 13, so I didn't actually have time for horses. I used to train in the mornings before school, train after school, so the horses were always there and I could always ride, but they weren't my priority. I never really had that massive interest in them. But one of my older sisters, she had a pony and she was starting to grow out of her. So she just said, oh, well, Millie is there if you want to ride her. So kind of a couple of evenings I started to, and then I got into it more and more. And I came to a little bit of a crossroads where it got to a stage that, okay, you need to do your pony or you can keep swimming and keep training. So I decided I was going to take a bit of a break from swimming for a while, and I started to ride a little bit more, started going hunting, show jumping, hunter trials, a bit of everything. I did everything you can name you could do on a pony, I did. So I went from there and I never went back swimming competitively because the horses, they just took over. I started riding the racehorses when I was around 14. And then I did pony racing when I was 16, and then I got my license when I was 17. So I got my license while I was doing my leaving cert, which in hindsight was probably a mistake. My mother didn't want me to get one because I persisted and she allowed me to get one, but she always was adamant that my studies came first. But I had my first ride on the race course in a bumper in Gorn Park on a horse called the Dodger for a local trainer, Seamus Bradish. I used to ride out for Seamus before school and at weekends, and he happened to win, and that was it. I was hooked. I always thought, oh, I'd like to ride in a couple of races, but do maybe sports journalism or have a career in something else and just have racing as a hobby. But after that first winner, I was like, no, this is for me. This is all I want. So I didn't try very hard my leaving cert. I went to college for a couple of months and decided, no, this isn't for me. It's impacting too much on my time. I just want to ride out and be around the horses. So I packed that in and started riding out all the time. And my mum was devastated. So I agreed to go do a PLC course in horsemanship in Croom, where I met the coordinator there, Rio McGonigal. She's a great lady, lovely lady. And she helped, my best friend and I actually both ended up doing it at the same time. She helped us massively, and I started riding out in Enda Bulgers while I was there as well. So I still ride out in Endas. That was 11 years ago, and I'm still riding out in Endas now. I'm still going there every Friday. So yeah, it was kind of a long road to where I am. I moved to Kildare when I was 21, I think, and I started riding out for Daisy Hughes. Daisy had a massive impact on my career because I kind of was a little bit at a crossroads of, okay, I've given it 2 or 3 years and I've ridden a couple of winners, but I'm not at the kind of standard that I want to be at. But when I went to Daisy's, he filled me both with confidence and knowledge in racing. So he probably had a massive impact on me in that sense. And I kept going. So I decided then, I'm going to keep at it. So I worked for Daisy for a while, and then he sadly passed away. And I moved on to Barry Conlon and Alan Flemings, and I rode out there for a while, and then moved to England for 2.5 years to ride for my brother-in-law and my sister, and moved home then about 3 years ago now. and I took up my role as recruitment officer in race. So I combine that now with riding out for Paddy Roach in the mornings, and then at the time I was recruitment officer in race and went into racing at 9 o'clock, but about 6 weeks ago, I started as recruitment officer in Equuip in HRI. So I still work a little bit with race. It's a bit of a combined role. So that's my kind of day to day and how I got to where I am. So it's been a bit of a long journey.
Brilliant. There's lots to go through there. I might actually just go back to you. You had said you would call yourself an amateur jockey. So can you just explain for others who may not know, what exactly does it mean to be an amateur jockey versus a professional jockey?
Yeah, no problem. So an amateur jockey, we can ride in, like I can ride in every race that's available to me. That's probably the reason I've stayed amateur. Amateur jockeys ride in point to points, bumpers, and they get 21 rides against professionals in professional races throughout the year or throughout the season. So it's run seasonally, which is April to April. An amateur doesn't get paid, so they do it. They tend to be people that have jobs on top of riding out jobs and racing. In Ireland, the word amateur is probably a bit of a loose term, because some of our amateurs are, they're very professional and they ride like professionals and they're just as talented as professionals. So it's the term amateur is actually gone now. We're called qualified riders, but I still use the term amateur. It's probably wrong to use. So it's riding every race, but you don't get paid. You're not on the professional ranks. So it'd be like maybe like a Limerick hurler, for want of words, that they have a job, but they're still full-time hurling, or they're busy with doing both, but you're not on the paid ranks.
Perfect. That's a very clear definition of what that actually means. So that is perfect.
Reverting back to my Limerick roots with the Limerick hurlers.
Just for anyone at home there is a Q&A box that is active. So if you do have a question, we'll make sure to get to it at the end. So you can just click the Q&A box and submit there. So actually that leads us on to your role at Equuip, which I believe is quite a new role for yourself. Well, you're new to Equuip, but you're splitting that time with race. So as a recruitment officer, what exactly does that mean, and what does your day look like?
Yeah, so my days are busy. My role as recruitment officer is to just attract people into the industry, and people that are already in the industry then kind of recruit them as such, for want of words, into courses that are already available to them. So it's just kind of creating an awareness around the courses that are in racing, and what HRI and race and other IHRB, the courses that they've put on and are making available to people within the industry and people that are interested in coming working in the industry. So my day-to-day would entail, it could be anything, where I'm at the races chatting to people, or I'm helping with junior academy days that we have in race. So they're kids days for 10 to 16-year-olds, and they come, not kids, they're actually older than kids, for young people that 10 to 16, and they come and they get a feel of what it's like to be a jockey for a day. They're all levels of experience. So some of them are very experienced and are pony racing. Some have very little knowledge and just think that they'd like to do that. So I help with those. We have schooling days in race, so I help to recruit for them, and then also go in and host them and help run them. I'm in the office in HRI on a Tuesday, so yeah, busy days, but they're good days and days that I enjoy doing. So lots of different variety and activity.
Lovely. That was a nice synopsis there. I actually have a question that was submitted ahead of time by a student. Do you have a racing hero that you watched when you were growing up?
Yes, she was actually on Dancing with the Stars. She won Dancing with the Stars recently. Was Nina Carberry. She was. I make her sound like she's much older than me. She's not. She's about, I think she could be 7 or 8 years older than me, but I looked up to her massively growing up. I idolized her. She's just so talented, and she even showed that, I think, when she was on Dance with the Stars, because she was like just took to it straight away, because she just oozes talent in every way, and she's a really nice person, a great person. When I started riding at Nenda's when I was 18, Nina was in there at the time, and she was great. She, they say don't meet your heroes, but I was delighted when I got to meet Nina, because she was so helpful and really, really did. She kind of took me under her wing a bit when we were in Enda's, and anything she could do to help me, she did. And then I got to compete against her on the race course, which was amazing as well, to say that, I even rode with her. But yeah, so it would have been Nina Carberry.
Great, thanks for that. That actually leads us nicely on to the next question. Do you have any advice for young jockeys who might be starting out?
Yeah, it's advice that I was given and probably didn't adhere to. When you're starting, you have to, there's going to be tough days. Like there are far more tough days than good days. And it's just pretty much try and keep your head up and carry on and not get too disheartened. Like I mentioned earlier, that when I came to about 21, 22, I came to a bit of a crossroads, and I just thought, oh, I've given it a bit of time now, I'm going to give up and I'll just go back. I had my horsemanship, and I did do sports journalism. I did an evening course in sports journalism, so I got a degree for that. And I was going to revert back to that and go do that. And now I'm so happy that I didn't, that I persisted and I kept going in the industry that I love and doing a job that I love, because I would never have been as happy in that job as I have been, and what I've done and achieved so far. And I want to go on. I want to do more. I love racing. I couldn't imagine doing anything else. But yeah, I think it's just to have that bit of resilience about you and persist and take the bad days with the good days, and kind of don't let either get to you too much, because if you let the good days get to you too much as well, you'll just, you'll probably end up a bit cocky or arrogant. I actually think Rachel Blackmore is a prime example of, kind of level-headedness, because she is the same person now that she was 10 years ago when she started out, and she was touring around riding point to points and, riding horses with no chances, to what she is now, riding Gold Cup and Grand National winners. She's just very level-headed, and, she's just consistent person and an all-round good person. So yeah, I think that'll probably be the advice I would give.
Great. We have a live question that has come in from a participant. Do you have a favourite type of race to ride in, or perhaps one that has stood out to you over the years?
I recently rode over the national fences in Aintree. I rode a horse called Stand Up and Fight. He's a horse that I adore. I love riding him because he's just real brave, and he's a lovely horse. And that was, a great thrill. They're massive to walk the track, and you think, looking at them, standing into them, I got a couple of photos when I walked them, and I even looked back the photos when I came home, and I thought, geez, they are huge. But riding over them, you just, for about 2 or 3 seconds, you feel like you're flying. And yeah, that was class. It was a great feeling. I love riding over fences and over jumps in particular. I enjoy riding in any race, but I think mostly over jumps, it's a little bit more thrilling. And I know I sometimes feel like you have a little bit more time to think than you do in a bumper in a flat race. It's over a lot quicker than a 3-mile chase. So yeah, definitely over jumps.
Perfect. I have another question that has come in. Is it ever too late to join the industry?
Never, ever. There's so many different jobs within our industry. You have like mountains of jobs that you can do. So you can, just because you're not a jockey or you're not a work rider or you're not a vet, doesn't mean you're not in the industry. There's, you can be farrier, you can be stable hand, or you can be working admin. It's all part of the industry. So I would say definitely not. And lots of people are, the course that in race, the training jockey course, some people join that course when they're 18, have never sat on a horse, and they can go on. And, I can give a list of examples of names of lads and girls that were 18 joining that course and thinking, God, I have no experience with horses, I'll never be able to be a jockey, that have gone on to ride winners. So it's all about everything, like everything in life. It's about attitude and your willingness to work and learn and kind of give it give it your all. But I would say no way. Definitely, you could join this industry at any age, and it's a great industry to be in.
Perfect. And I think that's something that we've really tried to highlight over the From Foal to Race program, that there is such a diversity of careers within the horse racing industry. So I'm glad that we got to highlight and mention that.
Yeah, for sure.
Maybe go back to a question that was submitted ahead of time. Actually, you've pretty much answered that. So it was just a typical day in the life, but I know we've gone through what your day looks like. Very, very busy.
Yeah, so my day will be that I guess, so yesterday, for example, I got up I was in the yard for 6:30. I rode out, went into the office at 9, about 9:10, supposed to be there at 9, but I was in about 9:10, 9:20 maybe. And I worked in the office in HRI until about 3:45, and I left and I drove to Ballinrobe, which is a 3-hour drive for me. I went there, got there, walked the track, rode in the bumper, which thankfully won. So made the drive home shorter. Got home it was around 12 o'clock by the time I got home. And then I was up again this morning at 6:30. So it's long days, long tiring days, but when you ride winners, it makes it all worthwhile.
Well, we appreciate even more you taking your time out to speak with us after hearing about that very long day yesterday.
No problem.
We have a Q&A here from an attendee. Oh, actually, that was just clarification on the question that was asked earlier. Do you prefer point-to-points, bumpers, hurdles, or fences?
Yeah, definitely over fences. I enjoy point-to-pointing as well. I think point-to-pointing, you really get to go back to like your grassroots nearly. It's more hands-on, like you're down in the horse box saddling the horses, and it's more probably chilled out and laid back. And I love it because I love going there even when I'm not riding, because I get to see young horses win 4-year-old maidens that I'm like, oh God, that's a nice horse. And you can follow them as they progress through their careers. So lots of good horses. Honeysuckle, even, for example, she started off point-to-pointing. So it's a great day out. I'd highly recommend, if you have a point on local to you, to go have a day out and experience it, because it really is a great day.
Lovely, thanks for that, Anya. And actually, a question has come in. Have you ever fallen off a horse?
Oh God, so there's a saying in racing that until you get 100 falls, you're not a jockey. I reckon I could be up on 1,000 at this stage. I'm always falling off. You probably call me slippery arse, because at this stage I am always like, I'm nearly on the ground more than I'm on them. No, that's not true, but everybody falls. I've had plenty of falls. I've had a couple of, I've had a share of injuries, nothing thankfully too serious. But I broke this collarbone 3 times, and I've done both ankles, and a couple of different things, but nothing too serious, nothing that stopped me from getting back up a couple of weeks later.
Brilliant. I think that's important when you're a sports person in general, just to, not get that fear into you and to continue on.
Yeah, it's I don't know, it's probably like a drug or a disease that when you are on the ground, all you're thinking about is, oh my God, when can I get back up on a horse again? It's and I think the day I get a fall and I don't want to get back up, that's the day I know that, okay, now I need to call it quits, because anytime I've been off it with an injury, my goal is to always work hard to get back racing. And I think if you ask any jockey in the weigh room, they'll say the same. So it's you take the falls are part of the job. A lot of the time you bounce back up again, and it's nothing. So I wouldn't let getting a couple of falls deter you from the sport, but it's part and parcel. Everybody gets falls in the game. Yeah.
Lovely. So one more question coming through here. Does the industry face any challenges?
Yeah, I suppose like every industry, there's challenges. We are probably facing a challenge of getting staff into the industry at the moment, just because it's a little bit, I suppose it's probably a select career that if you aren't made aware of racing at a younger age, or when you're in school or leaving school, you tend to go down the kind of more general career paths, or the more common career paths. And that's our job in Equuip, and that's something that we're working on, is just making racing more, creating more of an awareness around careers in racing. And that's part of the program with Agri Aware that we're trying to, that's one of the goals we're trying to achieve, is making racing maybe even more accessible, would be a word that would probably be thrown around a bit. That, because it is a really accessible sport, there's probably a bit of cliche or a kind of misconception out there that you have to be born into it, or your family have to have horses to work in racing, and it's definitely not the case. Like 99% of my friends that are working in racing have had no family in racing, or have had no involvement or family background. So I think it's to make people aware of that as well. But that staff and people working in the industry is probably one challenge we face. And then there's just misconceptions as well about maybe horse welfare. Some people seem to think that the horses aren't treated as well as they should be, or which is completely, like, to me, and working in the industry and working with horses, that just baffles me, because I promise you, my horses are always fed before I am, and it's the same in any of the yards that I go into, and they're treated like babies, and they're happy horses. They would never run, or they won't race if they're not happy, and they'll tell you. I'm sure anyone that has ridden a horse will know that if they're not happy about something, they're well able to tell you, or let you know what they're not happy about. So I think it's creating that awareness as well, that the horses are so well cared for, they're so loved. They really are people's pets, and the stable staff that look after them adore them, and their jockeys adore them. I know it's some person. I did a careers day once, and one of the students came to me and said, "Oh, well, you hit them with sticks, that you can't love them if that's the case." And I actually got out one of our whips that we do use. I don't know if any of you that are on the webinar have seen them, but they're called Pro Cush whips. So they're all cushioned, and they're air cushioned, so that they make a loud noise, a smacking slap noise, but there's no sting off them. They don't hurt in any way, shape or form. They're all cushioned and padded, and so it probably looks bad on the outside, but to anyone that knows what they are, they're not bad at all. They're more of a kind of a guide and a steering tool. Then they're not used to hurt them in any way, shape or form. So it's probably just misconceptions like that, letting people know that that we care for the horses as much as anyone could ever possibly imagine. We care for them more than that even. Probably those.
Thanks for that. So Aine, I think we'll leave it there, but thanks a million for coming to talk to us about your career within the racing industry. And to everybody at home, thanks a million for joining us this evening. If you missed the beginning of the webinar, this asset will be going up on our YouTube channel, and we will send it to your teachers so they can send you on the link. So again, thanks a million for everyone for joining, and I hope you enjoy your evening. Thanks, Aine.
No problem. Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.